Well, hello, LinkedIn friends. I'm so excited for you all to be here. I was literally just standing back there, and one of the audience members said, this one's going to be next level. So that's setting a pretty high expectation, but we're not intimidated by that. I'm Matt Torella, and I'm so fortunate to be joined by some exceptional panelists who are going to make their way up now. Sitting directly next to me is, I'm going to say, the Carmelo Anthony of B2B marketing, Candace Barker from Unicom, which we are so excited to have her here. Followed by Sarah Marin, who's the Chief Brand Officer and Chief Communications Officer at IBM, and she is the Ray Allen of B2B marketing for you sports fans. And then some very, very special guests, Spencer Keith, Denver Nugget, amazing, also Stanford engineering graduate. Like, you're sort of making me feel like I'm not doing enough with my life, Spencer Keith. And then someone who really doesn't need much of an introduction, Carmelo Anthony, 10-time All-Star, 3-time Olympian, New York Knick, and Denver Nugget. I mean, I know, you got it both. I mean, literally, like, you guys both wore the same jersey, so amazing. And also entrepreneur. And I think that's where this gets really interesting with our story today with our guest. We're going to talk about how B2B marketing, the most exciting topic in the world, obviously, and sports, and where they actually intersect. And I think we're going to have some surprising insights that come through these conversations. So how are we feeling, group? We ready to go? All right. I guess I should say I'm Matt Torella, and I'm really lucky to be here. Sports and B2B marketing, right? It's always overlap. For those who are in this game, they know that whether it's sponsorships, with the NBA, with F1, it is an important part of the strategy to go ahead and connect with audiences and build and grow your business. And certainly on the other side, athletes, and frankly, Melo, you have been a pioneer in this way. You've understood the power of, like, not only the fact that you work with brands, but you've actually become the brand. So I'm going to start with you, if that's okay, Carmelo. You spent 2 decades building the trust, like, that transcends the game. From one generation of fans to the next, you didn't just stay relevant, you stayed on the edge, and always expanding the boundaries of what's possible. I guess my question is, like, when did you first realize that, like, you were influencing behavior that moved beyond just basketball? What were those experiences like? We'd love to hear.
Yeah, I would say, how can I answer that question? How should I answer that question? The first thing I would say is there weren't any marketing strategy. I was the proof of concept, and I was what you were supposed to look into and see and identify and learn and go through experiences. So I built my own personal marketing plan by experience, but also by listening to and knowing when to go and when not to go, and knowing how to take chances and being willing to take risk on your own self first, and because you know what that loss feel when you drop the ball on yourself, something you have going on, it hits different. So when you go through that experience, you learn that experience, and you're able to take that experience as you go on in life. And when you go do something else, you build another brand or other brands for somebody else, you're able to learn from that experience. And I was the guy who was able to just be that case study in that experience.
You really are, like, talk about a growth mindset. Like, you've set the path for others to sort of walk along and find their own path. And I think it's a really nice transition to you, Spencer Keith, because, I mean, the way that you are engaging on LinkedIn, the way you're connecting with, like, Gen Zs, millennials, it's like it's getting a lot of attention. So I would love to hear from you, like, when did the light bulb moment happen, or, what catalyzed your interest in leaning into this area?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Stanford stuff and everything like that. You get into Silicon Valley and you start developing. Look, I kind of had a love for tech startups, wanted to be in that space, kind of, knew after basketball that might be something I do. And, spent 5 years there, built a lot of connections. So at first it really just started, I wanted to post because I knew I was leaving. And I was like, oh, shoot, like I'm about to play basketball for 5 to 10 years. Like the worst thing I could do is not keep up with that network. And it just seemed like the easiest thing to do. Like I don't have to individually text, like keep presence of mind and just post about stuff. But then, when I started relating to Gen Z, I'm like, all right, I'm a basketball player. I don't really have too much experience in the tech space. I didn't really take too many internships. I had, basketball as a job. I think the worry with posting is like the competence issue. It's like, am I competent enough to talk to, people like you who are going to be reading my stuff? And so how I navigated that was the authenticity aspect of like, like what's it like doing my job? How does it parallel to you guys? How am I thinking about, what I want to invest in? How's my day to day? And then you start connecting with people like you and you realize that's what you want to know. You want to know how Gen Z's thinking. That's the new market you're trying to get into, and that authenticity piece. And it's really blown up. And obviously, like, there's not too many NBA athletes, currently posting on LinkedIn during the season and stuff like that. I've had a bunch of interviews where I'm like, why am I doing this? Or like, when's the next post after a big game and stuff like that. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is like, especially among Gen Z, like we're less concerned about outcomes and more about, documenting the journey that led to it. That's why I love the platform so much. Cause like, on other platforms, you can take a picture of something and be like, oh, cool, I was here. LinkedIn, you have to take a picture and say, I was here, but you need to go further. You need to be like, what does that mean? What does that mean for me? What does that mean to anybody else and stuff like that? And so that really makes you think about the connections you're building and how you're growing your presence. That's why I kind of love the platform. So,
man, we so appreciate it because of like the work that you all have done, and sports and I say sports, it is more than that. It is the entrepreneurial journey. Because as an athlete, you're building your brand. It is a profession, and the way you all are sort of expressing it, and it's being consumed like crazy. To give everyone a sense, like sports-related posts on LinkedIn get 50% more engagement on average. Okay, and what's this other stat? The top 1% of hashtags on the global platform, hashtag sports. So. What started with like, wait, how the heck do these things all intersect? It's all sort of starting to come together. So now I get to go down the line. Sarah, IBM. It's not a legacy brand. It's a brand with an amazing legacy, and you are pushing it even further. I impressed the chief comms officer. That means I've done my job. Can we talk about how you're thinking about sport, profession, the intersection?
Yeah, I mean, we used to sort of have like a mullet kind of social media strategy where the party was on Instagram, and that's where sports lived, right? And LinkedIn was all business in the front, right? And what we have discovered and evolved into, which is going to be unsurprising to every single person here, is that, again, it's just humans on the platform. And the funny thing about being a brand like IBM is like people think they know IBM, and so it's hard to get their attention, right? There's a little bit of like, yeah, I know those guys, scroll, scroll, scroll. What they don't know about us is frequently what we do in sport, but also we can get their attention because we have data they don't have. So if you would like to have a great conversation, like bring up Serena coming back to Wimbledon, and we're able to actually like add to that conversation, to your point, versus just posting a pretty picture and saying, hey, we were there. And so it's a huge part of our LinkedIn strategy now.
Yeah, and it's real. I mean, like people are actually getting knowledge that's relevant to them and helping them like, improve their own career opportunities through the IBM strategy. Now, Candace, you have a pretty cool perch because you're looking at so many brands, so many leading brands across the entire spectrum because you work at Omnicom, which is, the largest holding company in the world. And I would love to hear like what you're seeing in terms of patterns as it relates to this intersection of B2B and sport.
Yeah, so I think that, and you talked about this too, right? B2B decision makers are still just humans. And I think for probably the last 10 years, we were still treating B2B marketing like B2B decisions only happened on B2B platforms and only during work hours, right? It was like, we're only going to advertise from 9 to 5 when people are at work. But the truth is, The B2B decision-making committee has shifted substantially. They're younger, they're millennials, Gen Zs, they're more diverse, and expectations around work and how work gets done have changed. They're no longer, only thinking about work when they're there, and then they're turning on the Super Bowl and only thinking about, their lives as a consumer. So it's really important that we are present in all of the places that they are, and that's where sports comes into play, right? It's a universal love and passion. It's one of the only passion points, I think, where you can kind of pull out politics, pull out things that can feel really risky, and focus on the love for the game. And I've been so proud of our B2B clients that have really been leaning into that, like IBM.
Yeah, it's incredible. Well, so if it's all right, the journey we'll go on is, all right, we understand the why. Now, like, what about the what? And again, getting back to your first comment, Carmelo, you're like, you sort of didn't have the playbook. You're the prototype, and you're building yourself. And to give everyone a sense here, Carmelo has one of the most popular newsletters on all of LinkedIn. Okay, so this is beyond just like I post, it is like I'm posting. You have like a full-on integrated marketing strategy happening on LinkedIn. So can you talk about that journey and like the kind of content that you're looking to share as an entrepreneur, and so the folks can learn?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the LinkedIn newsletter for me, it gives me it's very therapeutic to me because I love to write and I read and I need space to myself and time to myself. So this newsletter allows me to take people on the journey of what it's like to survive, right? And survival is cool, right? It's not a weakness either. Like you show strength in surviving, but also the fact that it's buildable too, right? So that's the reason behind my newsletter. I want to show people and take people inside of my survival and after basketball, but also, bring people along and show them that this is buildable too, and then how you build it. And I only can give you my experience on how I built my personal businesses. And now I can get the community involved and we can talk and we can engage. I'm back and forth on the comments. I'm talking to people. I'm having side conversations with people. So when you're able to just take a message and build a community around that, it allows me to listen to. It allows me to listen to the people who's actually reading the newsletter, so that the next newsletter, I'm able to go even deeper on conversations, but also to the data standpoint, I get a chance to look at that and see, okay, what is people really interested in when they want to read my newsletter, and I can attack that point of entry when it comes to writing. So the writing the newsletter is definitely therapeutic. I actually write it myself. I take my time and write it.
I know you do.
I have 4 more that I've written already, and I think we're about to release issue 4 or 5 or something coming up. But yeah, it's been great for me. It's been another kind of outlet for me to just write and learn. And to your point, I don't think a lot of people understood what LinkedIn was about. Right? I just think everybody was thinking it's business and it's for business people. But nah, when you get on there and you really dig deep into LinkedIn, you really understand there's a real community here that can make real impact.
Yeah. If that was the greatest 60-second commercial for Melo's newsletter. Everyone, no one will be offended. Take out your phones right now and subscribe to that newsletter. And I mean this. I have read them.
Thank you.
And there was never a question that you wrote those. Like felt like I followed you for so many years, and I read this. I'm like, oh my goodness. So thank you for sharing it. It's so real. So I honestly, and tell all your friends, because it is just an incredible thing. And so for you, Spencer Keith, when you think about the way you engage, you built this community as well. So I think you sort of caught people. I don't know what the basketball term is, but you got them off balance because you just came in and people were like, whoa, this guy's like sharing what's going on, like right off the court and doing things like. How do you think about community? How do you think about that trust and that relationship? I guess why LinkedIn for you in that respect as you build it? Would love to just understand it because so many marketers I think would probably just do anything to have what you and Carmelo have in terms of that relationship with your fans.
Yeah, why LinkedIn? Yeah, it's you can't fake it. Like everybody can go onto my profile and see, and I'm even pretty transparent about my investments and stuff like that, like what I do, what I've done, everything like that. I can't fake anything on there, and I appreciated that. That's why. Look, like as an athlete, you don't like other platforms because people can say whatever they want. That's why I don't really use Twitter all that much. Or I definitely don't look at it, especially after certain games. But LinkedIn appreciates that transparency and everything like that. And like I've realized a lot of my biggest posts, weren't, like I said, they weren't necessarily the outcomes. Having a big game, getting into the NBA and stuff like that. They were kind of like the failures in terms of like when I talked about my first investment that went down, or I had a very unfortunate week where I had 2 game winners hit on me, one by Luka Doncic and one by Shea. But then I talked about look, failure moment. I'm sure Carmelo has plenty in his career. I was blessed to be trusted in those situations this young in my career and stuff like that. And that's how I've been thinking about building my community. And why I also did is look, I know I want to be. Whether in the operator investor space, but in the VC landscape, which is all relationships anyways. That's all business is relationships. And this was a way to really cultivate my presence. Like even through VC, I see more and more creators being like business people. Like obviously you see a bunch of startup founders talking about their journey through it and bringing a presence to it. And then now I've even seen like VC firms themselves, GPs, bringing personality to, finance, which really is just a suit and tie. And, you don't really know anything about the person, which doesn't make sense to me because you're asking people for money. I want to know who you are if I'm giving you money. I don't understand why you had to be behind a closed door to a lot of those industries. And so look, the creative economy is booming to the point where business professionals are now in it. Businesses are in it. It's interesting to see kind of the events that go on, like All-Star, JP Morgan Chase, which them as the big conglomerate, everything like that. I'm like, why are they hosting a basketball event, in All-Star and everything like that? You're not going to get your customers aren't there, but it's it builds a story around you guys, your community engagement, everything like that. That's the presence you want. All right, I'll go to you guys over another bank and everything like that because I know you now and stuff like that. So you just see that growing from everywhere, just beyond influencers, but now business people.
And a trend that we're seeing is brands have incredible heritage, and also in a world where LLMs are sort of reading data and there's robots. It's not enough to just sort of put out, your website to say something. People want to react to people, and when you choose someone I trust, a certain brand to work with, that tells me something about that brand, and it matters and it influences people when they go in to search or do an LLM and they're on that to be on that short list of companies that I'm sort of interested in. Yeah, it's hyper competitive, and you all are now, I think, seeing this movement where marketers are getting it and they're bringing it closer. And you all also have competitive advantage, I think, in the business space. So if we could move to, on LinkedIn, we got the why, we got the what. Let's talk about the concrete things, because you all are entrepreneurs. You guys are building, Carmelo, again, I think you're right. You are the prototype. You're building businesses. You have a wine company, which we got to talk about. I want to know because I'm into wine, and my wife's going to be very excited after this panel when she hears this. But you also have a creative company, Creative 7, and many other investments and things. I guess talk about that move for you and what you learned through that process. As you was I can have an association, or I can be a principal in this.
Well, it took me to being a student first. I had to go through kind of what you have to go through as a beginner in any industry. You have to listen, you have to observe, you have to learn, you have to go through it. But most importantly, you have to show up. And when you start showing up, you start to learn what to do and what not to do. You start to hear things. You start to hear things very differently than as if you didn't show up. So when you go through that, you realize, okay, patience. Patience is my strategy at the end of the day, because when I'm patient in doing these brands and building these products and this content company, I need trust, right? So I got to be patient enough in this strategy in order for me to trust this process and what's going on. So then after the fact, or when it's done, I'm able to go out there and speak it and talk it and bring the outside world or the consumer or the customer, whoever it may be, into my universe. And once I have you in my universe, I'm able to offer you so many different experiences within that. and conversation and storytelling and messaging. So now we going along together. So I would say patience, for myself is a big part of my strategy.
That that's
Was
very
that a
cool.
good one? Or?
Yeah, I'm like, well, it's so thoughtful because everyone wants to. What Warren Buffett used to say, like, everyone wants to get rich quick. No one wants to get rich slow. And it leads to some pretty poor decisions sometimes when you're thinking short term. So that is just so wise. Thank you. Like that was incredible and threw me off my moderating game. It was so good. So Spencer Keith, you talked about you got some investments. So you're already sort of playing that role of an LP, a limited partner, and you sort of got another full-time gig. All right. Can you talk? You're literally. I feel like I'm sort of a failure, and it's okay. That wasn't meant to make you feel guilty. But it's pretty impressive. How are you managing this dual identity, if you will, of like, I almost feel like it's, like you got two big worlds going.
Yeah, it was a main concern, especially because I came in the league undrafted as well. So like I was still trying to figure things out while I was doing this, like because of that, I was worried about perception. I'm like, I'm still building everything, and do they think I'm not? Because a lot of Stanford guys, like, our typical questions in like NBA draft circles, like, when you do your workout and talk to, upper management, they always try to pry and say like, oh, is he really all in on basketball? Because he has other options. Does that deflate, how much I put into the basketball piece? And I'm like, no, like these go hand in hand. If I maximize my basketball ability, it only gives me a bigger brand in terms of what I want to do off the court. But no, to answer your question, when I started, like, I wanted to, I'm young. Carmelo talks about patience. Like, I know, like, there's a lot of learning to be done, but there's a lot of access as well, so I can be unique with my learning. So a lot of my investments originally were in, places where I knew I had an immediate advantage: consumer, health tech, and stuff like that. And I strategically partnered with stuff that helped me with my career. A lot of them would be like the shoe company I partnered with. I had some ankle issues, so I partnered with a startup that shoes that are medically designed to prevent ankle sprains. Haven't had one since I've worn it. Got a lot of equity there, but then also got to do the operator role, help them with product development. They come out with a new shoe, I helped design it, help them with the marketing strategy. Some other ways where I would get partner with another company, gives me better analytics on my body, another company for wellness, stuff like that. That's how I started out. Then when I got my groove, I'm like, okay, now I mapped it out. Then I went a little deeper into some other non-traditional spaces, and that's how I started out. And then now, I realized how much of a relationship game VC and everything is, and why I'm patient, to really start doing some stuff. It's look, let me build up. My brand's absolutely maximized. Let me get the most relationships and build the best community I can, because a lot of things in VC are insiders. So the more people the better investments you get. The top unicorns, you need somebody to know to get in there. And I love the strategy I learned from used to play for the Golden State Warriors, and he's a great investor now. And I was just asking look, I'm not a VC. I'm trying to play this game. How do you do it? What's your thesis? He's like, dude, I don't have a thesis. I don't even think of myself as a VC. I think of myself as a strategic investor. And so he's like, my strategy is what I do is look, I'm good enough to at least get in the door, get in a meeting with some of these top people in these these unicorn companies and stuff like that. And then what I do is I just curate an experience because I know so many people. So I'll he's still in tap with the Warriors. So he'll be like, hey, do you want to come to a game? Who's going to say no to a Warriors game when when they're doing well and stuff like that? And he'll curate it. He'll be like, I'll take him to the back owner's room because I got relationships there. Take him around, shoot around, say hi to the players, stuff like that. Take him to a special seat to watch the game. Then after, take him to the party and stuff like that. Be like, hey, how was your time? Obviously amazing, stuff like that. And then he goes to the point of look, what if I could do that to the businesses you're trying to partner with or sell to and everything like that? What would that do for your company and stuff like that? Hey, you got a good point there. And then boom, you get some equity there. And that's kind of how you play the game as an athlete and use your entire access. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is just build that community in order to be able to put on those experiences, which everybody knows IRL is going to become the best marketing. So
I'm not sure everyone knows. We want to make sure everyone knows. Can is packed, but it's so real and it's so cool. Right now, everyone is getting such a 360 view of you all as humans. It's wonderful that we'll be able to share this, and I love that you can do it on LinkedIn. Melo, I know you have to go. I don't want you to, but I understand we got to let you go. Can I ask you one more before?
Absolutely.
All right. So, and this one's not necessarily B2B marketing, but if you could tell the business leaders in this room, of which there are many, and there'll be many more, they'll be catching up on LinkedIn on this. What what playbook would you like encourage them to steal? Like one thing you've learned from your career in sports and beyond that as a business person, they should learn from the journey you've been on?
I think I referenced it in the other question, that like patience, and a lot of times there's brands and there's companies that want to go so fast and speed and get to the destination so quickly that they forget along the way what you have to go through to get there, because they just worrying about getting there. And when you do that, you lose the feel, you lose the emotion, the journey of getting from the beginning to the end. And in between that, you start questioning yourself as a brand. You start, having to pull back the layers and redefine your brand and rebrand your brand. It's like, you don't have to do that. For one, you need to know exactly who you are. Figure out who you are first. And then now you can go as fast or slow as you want. You can pivot when you want to pivot. I know a lot of these brands want ROIs and, bottom lines and, hey, I need this by Tuesday. But nah, you have to sometimes you need that, but sometimes you got to take a step back and really figure out that journey to get to that ROI, which would allow you to actually go out there and be comfortable once you get to your destination. So again, patience for me is the strategy.
It makes so much sense, and there's such a direct connection between the way you build and you open the door for everyone to come with you.
Yes.
It's like everyone's invited. It's going to get messy sometimes. We're not always going to be perfect. We're going to keep learning and going. And I'm thinking about, I see how products are now developed in Silicon Valley, this wasn't a thing before you. It's like we're building out in the open, like we're doing it. So they're in some ways borrowing that lesson in real life, even the product development across the tech industry. Well, we are so happy you're able to join us and drop those nuggets, pun intended. Can we give a huge round of applause for Mello? We're gonna keep it going, but we gotta give the legend a moment. Yeah. So good. See you. All right. We got this. That was pretty cool and incredible. We're going to move it over to the B2B marketing side because we want to keep building those bridges. Candace, we just heard from Carmelo, right? About building an audience. I guess, what stood out for you as you were listening to that, and how might you translate that to the B2B marketers that you're guiding, hundred bazillions of dollars to invest well?
Yeah, so I actually really liked what he said about patience, right? I think that nobody wants to be proposed to on the first date, right? And in B2B marketing, sometimes we will, push out messages that are all around, these are our technical capabilities and, book a demo with me today. When the role of B2B marketing, I think the first touch point is really about curiosity, making them excited and curious enough to want to go out on that second date and then the third date and build that relationship over time. But a lot of B2B marketers are still driven by, did I generate a lead? How quickly is that lead going to convert to pipeline? But we have to take a step back and really think about what we're trying to do, which is build a long-term relationship, and that takes patience.
Yeah, patience and a great agency to help educate the CFO.
This is true.
On why this is the right thing. Sarah, listen, you're one of the biggest sports investors probably on the planet. You get this game. I would love, some of the things that you've heard from our all-stars on how they're thinking about it. I guess, how are you thinking about creators? It's I feel like 5 years ago there wasn't a creator on the cassette, and now it's probably the most talked about thing along with AI. So how are you all managing that?
I would say up with creators, down with AI when it comes to actual content, right? And we think about it through the lens of does anyone want this, right? So frequently, to your point, it's everyone's all frothy because they can reach every IT decision maker with a tailored piece of content. And it's does any human being want that? They don't want that. They want to talk about Ferrari because it's Ferrari and it's hot and it's interesting and they have a personal passion point around it. And so that's how we think about content in general. And creators are, for us, I would say the investment just ratchets up and up and up and up and up. And again, 5 years ago, the dark ages, you're sort of thinking about creators as like kids, as like girls doing selfies and like sort of like inappropriate photos, and it was like cool. That's not for IBM. Now we are all in on creators, and we're all in on creators on LinkedIn, which I think people don't really like grok that. If I trust someone, having them sort of speak to something that I also care about is like a multiplier effect. And I'm going to get so much more interested in a brand because of that. And so that's really where, for us, when we look at like our investment portfolio or picture, that's where we're doubling down.
I think the definition too of what a creator is for B2B marketing has shifted a ton. Like, it doesn't have to be, that TikTok influencer. There's also so much power in the voices within your organization, which I think IBM does that really, really well. Leverage the people that you have that already have a community on LinkedIn, and they're your biggest brand asset. They're also creators. So that's been really cool. And you guys actually have I think LinkedIn has trained some of your internal people on how to show up better. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just to take that sports metaphor probably too far, I mean, internally we talk about this. No, in all seriousness, that sometimes businesses don't realize what they have. You have a relationship with your employees. Sarah, I haven't checked recently, but how many IBM? Hundreds of thousands?
290.
290,000 people. Imagine if we look at all the followers that those folks have. The opportunity to have them. They're the folks that are working on the Nuggets. They might not be on the court, but like that whole operation doesn't happen without them. And then we get into the fans, the people that are using your products, and now we're getting into tens of millions, and people are using IBM products. You all today use an IBM product. I guarantee it. You just don't know it.
You have no idea.
Exactly. So it's amazing. You have actually a media company in some ways as you think about it, and building with those creators, I think, is a really, really powerful way you're showing that, yeah, we are a media company in some ways.
We are, and just to jump in with one comment and close your ears, Matt. You're not going to like this one.
No. Oh, I'm good.
But like what we found, particularly around sports and creators, is a lot of times we don't have like a big financial relationship with these folks, to be honest. But if we're able to give them access, that builds an actual relationship, right? Like if we can take them backstage to something, if we can take them into the garage at Ferrari, if we can take them to some of the private areas at Wimbledon, like that is what creates that like authentic relationship that is actually bigger and better than a check. It is commercial. We're bringing them in, but like we're not necessarily doing huge contracts.
No, I think I am on board with that. I think like as we think about creators and how we support that community, and it's a broad definition. I mean, sometimes a creator can just be a business executive that's awesome in their field. We just want to make sure that we're supporting them and giving them good reason to keep coming back to LinkedIn. And that could be because we bring a newsletter. That could be because we make it easier for brands to connect with them through our new creator marketplace plug, which allows, creators to be connected with brands in a very like scalable way. And ultimately for them to help build businesses. Creators at this point is one of the top jobs that people aspire to that, are in college or earlier, which is, again, a little bit for, I feel like I'm a boomer. It's like, what? But we got to prepare for that if we want to actually follow our mission of creating economic opportunity. Do you want to finish off on something here?
No.
We're good?
We're good.
All right. Well, we're almost at time. I think it's time to bring it home a bit. So maybe they will do like a rapid fire. We had an amazing exchange here. We want to leave folks like with one thought on what your experiences with LinkedIn and just sort of sport and B2B. What do you want them to take home with them? You can?
Yeah, I alluded to it earlier. I think stop focusing on marketing the outcome, market much more the journey, behind it. Like, look, I just finished my second year in the NBA, going through free agency this week, and going to sign a much bigger contract, stuff like that. So we'll continue play. But like I say that to
Knicks
say,
in 5. We're all hoping. We're all hoping you're coming to New York. Exactly. My favorite restaurant.
Yeah, but
you're coming.
I say that to say like I'm only 2 years in. 90% of the league has a better outcome than I do right now in terms of what they produce and stuff like that. But I've let people in on the journey, and so that's what's made me marketable. That's what makes you keep coming back and stuff like that. And every outcome I have in terms of when I have a big game or when I sign this contract, stuff like that, I bring people back to what happened over the years, everything like that. So they know, they feel like they've followed the journey. So like my 2-year kind of career seems like stretched out because it's been like, oh, I've heard of this mistake and this mistake and this mistake, this mistake. Gosh, like, and that's why I said that's where the competence kind of comes in this short span. So like talk about the journey. Like when I hear a company and stuff like that, when I hear IBM, like, yeah, you're everywhere. I don't know that. I have no idea what your journey has been in terms of where you started as a company and how you got to these different avenues. I just know about this partnership that apparently is so big, but I have no context around that. So why would I be invested in that? So that's my advice.
Awesome. Sarah?
Yeah, I would say even on LinkedIn, it is all right to like loosen your tie and not be quite as precise. And that's like a journey that we've been on, even on the sports properties, where like everything used to be beautiful and go through agencies. And if we had a fact, we would like think about it really hard before we would post it. And now we're just like, it's cool. And you're going to get more engagement by being, again, just very honest, authentic, and human. And if you screw it up, you go back on and you apologize. And it's fine.
Love that.
That's called courage. Yes.
I think on a similar vein, I would say for B2B, we have to stop giving ourselves permission to be boring.
Yes.
And
yes.
remember that we're still just people. Business decision makers are still just people. Nobody wants to read a 50-page white paper. They would rather see your video spot on the, while they're watching a game, right? Like, loosen up the tie, tell better stories, stop being boring, and move faster.
Oof. I dare you not to do that now. That's awesome, Candace. I guess my big takeaway would be spend as much time with people like this. And if you can't, it's not every day that I get to do this kind of panel, but I do sort of every day get to follow what you all are doing with LinkedIn. And it does sort of feel like it puts me in the room with you all, which is making me smarter every time I have another interaction. So on behalf of everybody on LinkedIn and the audience here, can we get a round of applause for this incredible panel? Yeah. So grateful. Thanks, everybody.